What's up, YouTube? This is Brandon at the Movies here, bringing guys another movie review. Today I'm reviewing A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010. It's directed by Samuel Bayer. It stars Jackie Earle Haley, Rooney Mara, Kyle Gallner, and Katie Cassidy. And it tells the story of young kids being attacked by someone in their dreams who's looking for revenge after being murdered by their parents. But these kids have forgotten their trauma, and now they have to figure out if he was innocent or not. So I was trying to give my best intro there about the story, which I think does get what I'm going for. You know what this movie is going for. So this is the remake of the classic 1984 Wes Craven A Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously, this is one of the most controversial, more mixed at best, I guess, to really negative experiences for a lot of people, because one, everyone thinks of Nightmare on Elm Street just as Freddy Krueger, and that's all everyone thinks he should be. That's only the person that should play it, and we haven't had a Nightmare on Elm Street since this movie, so it's been about now 14 years. Still don't know when we're going to get another one, which is really unfortunate, because it's a really good series, a really cool character, a really good character, and we're just letting it slip by. And while we, as someone as a Halloween fan, we've now have 13 Halloween movies, really 12 technically, with one being a non-Michael Myers story. Friday the 13th, I think, has 12 or 13, and again, 12 of those are really Jason based. Even Jason Goes to Hell has Jason in it. And then you have, Chucky's been still kicking. Even though Friday the 13th and Nightmare have the issues, because their remakes were 1 year apart from each other, and that hasn't got anything. I know we have that Peacock series, prequel series, still in development. We don't know when that's going to happen. So it's still been for both of these, it's been a while. This was a movie that I think of all the remakes of the big three, big four remakes, was the one that I think a lot of people just had a lot of disdain for, and it has its issues. But I'm going to come out and say this is actually, I enjoy this remake. I think I prefer it over the original. And I'm not going to say that lightly, just because I understand that that's very, oh, how do you like the remake better, or how can you enjoy it more now? I forget the time of when I did watch the remake and the original, but I do remember thinking, I think I did see the original first for some reason, or the remake. I forget, no, I know, it's really the time of me. They were pretty, well, because this came out in 2010, and then I think that collection series came out, I think 2000. I don't remember at this point, I guess. I do remember going to the drive-in and seeing the remake, and I was just really in awe of it. That's all I can for sure remember. I remember the posts and just, when the trailer came out for this. So me watching the original, I don't remember. It was probably around the same time frame, maybe a bit after. But I do really like the original. I think the original is good. I just don't think, I think what hurts the original is some of the things that I just don't think it's as scary as I think. I don't think it held up in the scary department. There's a specific scene where Freddy's in Tina's dream, and he's running after her with the arms. I think that kind of takes me out. I know it's kind of nitpicky, but trust me, that doesn't scare me. That just it's just, especially now when you go back and rewatch these films, I'm more scared of this Freddy now. Dream Warriors is still my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film, but I think I prefer the remake over the original, and I know that's a lot to say, but let me give you my reasons why. The biggest reason is Jackie Earle Haley kills it as his take on Freddy. whether you like this film or not, you have to give respect to what Jackie Hurley does in this movie. He is giving it his all, and for whatever the flaws of this film, especially like if you have flaws with the way he looks, not on him. He's giving the performance he's trying to give. That's not like Robert. And I know in the behind the scenes, I think he wanted to do his own thing while not straying way too far away from Robert, but I think he does really well enough to where this does not feel like Robert's Freddy. Even when he has those kind of dark humor, it's very gross and disgusting, and that's what I really did like about it. He is a dark, force that is not to be fucked with. He doesn't like to be fucked with. Like he is pissed, and that's what I really like. This attitude is a more pissed, more angry, and just more fucked up version of Freddy. That, look, if you're going to remake it, you need to go. You did need to go darker. I know. I think a lot of fans want it darker, but I don't think they want to go there. I think, and I'll get into more of the negative into this section, but I think he does a really good job, and I think the makeup doesn't look that too bad. I think the one nitpick I would say is probably the mouth, where it doesn't move so much. I think that's the thing where they probably need to work on a little bit better. But outside of that, I really like the look. It's definitely not like, it's not trying to be Robert Englund, and that's what I did not want this movie to be, is like Robert Englund, because you might as well have just brought him back if you're just going to do Robert Englund again, But I think Katie Cassie does a really good job here as Chris, and we'll get to why she. I think this is one of my favorite performances of hers. I think she's terrified really well, but she's also likable, and you feel for her a little bit. Unfortunately, she doesn't get as much. They try to sell you as her. They try to sell you as her as the main character, and then they kind of try to pull it out from under you, kind of thing. Which, if you're a fan of the original film, you kind of get the character she's playing. And so unfortunately, Kyle Gallner, I think he does a really good job as Quentin. I think he's really likable, and he's one of the ones you're really, really rooting for. He does a really good job in the sequences where he's really pissed off at his dad, played by Clancy Brown, he's good in for the moments he's in the film. But Kyle Gallner brings this like likable, just there's something about, like, there's a reason why he's been cast throughout all these films. I mean, he's done more, like, even Scream 5, where he has nothing to do, he's given, like, a little bit, and that's it. He was still solid in that for that little bit, which I think he's better here just because he gets more to do. I think he works really well with Rooney Mara and everyone around him. Now, I'll get to Rooney Mara in a second. The visuals, the cinematography, I think, are outstanding. I think what Samuel Bayer brings to this, he brings over from his music videos side, obviously. If you don't know, he directed Nirvana's biggest, Smells Like Teen Spirit or something like that. I forget guys, the song I'm talking about. He also did stuff for My Chemical Romance. I know one of one of my favorite songs on there. I can't remember that title of the name, unfortunately, but he directed a few music videos, for them, My Chemical Romance. I think he even directed Green Day. So he brings a visual style, and one of the songs that from My Chemical Romance reminds me of that kind of visual style he brought here, and I really love that. I love the scene where the blood scene in the row, or in the house, in the a hallway that Rooney falls into. I love that scene, and the atmospheric, and the way that they do the silhouette with Robert, or not with Robert, with Jackie. I think I really love that. Just going in the store where it's coming in and out of, him attacking Rooney, Rooney's character Nancy. Love that visually is just such a really good and cool thing. Really respect to what they were able to do with that. The opening sequence with Kellen Lutz, I think, is one of the best openings. One of the best openings in the Nightmare films. I think it has the atmosphere, it has the cinematography. it builds it up, and it's just really creative, and just it gets right into it. It gives you, it's a punch right there, right at the beginning. And I really like that. And I think the ending credit like that they've done in the original film, they improved that so much better. Yeah, they had to use CGI for it, but I think it looks so much better than the dog coming through the the door hole, or whatever you want to call it, the little window. Yeah, so much better. So the mixed element, I would say one of the biggest mixed elements of this film is Rooney Mara, and part of it is because she did not want to do this film. She also didn't have the best experience on set, and this has been documented. There's been articles, and I think there's also, she did an interview talking about it, and she had to be careful what she wanted to say, but she hasn't said much about it. Um, so it's like, in terms of why was it she didn't like the experience, but she also said that she when she did she didn't want the part, but she got it, and it's I think a lot of fans are frustrated because you have someone who did not want the role, obviously didn't have the best experience, but before that, why take the role if you didn't want to just say no? Obviously you wanted it enough to to put your name out there, and she also has a sister who's an actress. And now I want to know, would like to know what behind the scenes to have that bad experience, because then then I could easily, okay, definitely understand why you're not liking the production. But I do believe there was something about her not liking horror films or something like that. I don't know if that were, I remember someone was mentioning that. I don't know how much of that is true, because I don't want to say. But apparently she was saying something about like how people like us can watch this. I do know that was something people were pointing out, that she said that at one point, which is is annoying. But then again, you do have other people who do work in horror, who end up saying they don't watch horror or don't really care for horror. So I think the way she went about it maybe was, and this was her first film, and for it to be her first film and then to come out, yeah. But outside of that, I think she does a decent job. I think because they take Nancy in a different route. She's more of a quiet art persona, instead of the confident, Nancy Thompson from the original film, which I get. Look, if you're going to, again, when you're doing a remake, change some things up a bit. At least don't do the exact same thing, And I do appreciate that, though I think she gets better throughout the film. I think she definitely gets better into the third act. I don't think she's terrible. I just think she's too, like, I guess, monotone, and just knowing about how her experience on set is, obviously it kind of maybe shows to how she was really throughout the film. So I don't know. Ultimately I think she was fine. They have this introduction of the micro naps, where it's where you're sleeping even though you're still awake, kind of thing like that. And it's really interesting, the way they use it. They just don't use it so much, which is disappointing, because you can obviously, it could be it was really effective when they used it, just didn't use it enough. Yeah, so getting into the biggest negative of this film, the CGI. And this is mainly the wall scene. It is one of the most egregious shots in the movie. It is ridiculous. And this is someone coming from, that I prefer this over the original, but what the original does better is, look, you can't do something that they did practically in 1984 and come back and say, hey, we're going to try to do it better, but use CGI. And look, CGI is good. And if you're going to use CGI for that shot, it better be where you can't notice. And obviously, it was really noticeable. Now, I think it's a better shot than like something like in Freddy vs. Jason, where it was in the dream of the one guy, and Freddy like has this big whole ghost looking come out of him. I think it's better than that, but even then, I don't want to even give it credit for being better than that, considering that's 2003. We're in 2010. It'd be better. Again, look, CJ can help, but practical is better, and you can't do something better. You can't, in a way, it's like, why even attempt it if you're just going to CGI it and you're not going to do it as good as you can. I would have respected them if they did did the CGI, but at least put, like, it. You want the effort, is like, try to make it good. Like, don't, that's the best you guys can do. I don't know, like, how they handle Chris, I think that's unfortunate, because that could have been a really nice way of getting into changing this movie up and not making it feel like the original film at times. But instead they kind of do that thing. They try to get under your feet. They're trying to kind of a shock thing. But if you know the original, Tina is the one that dies first, and unfortunately she is Tina. Now they do it in a different way, obviously, or she's the second to die, actually, because you're introduced to I think, is it Dean, played by no, it's not Dean. Kellen Lutz's character. You're introduced to him, so they change it up a bit here, but with Tina, and then not Tina, Chris, and she's set up really well, but unfortunately they just take her to the same place that Tina eventually lands, and that's disappointing, especially when you get and this is more of because people are really disappointed with how the way Rooney was played, and her and Quinn are ultimately your final characters in the film. For some, that was a mixed bag, because you had Quentin, but then you have Rooney, who's for a lot of people was just not as compelling as the original Nancy. Unfortunately, my other big negative is how they with the Freddy story. Now, okay, so this is, I think, one of the biggest things is that he is a child, in this film, and it's gross and disgusting, but that's what makes him scarier. And I know that was the point. There's the point of making them scary. But my biggest issue is that, okay, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too here. They were trying to do that the dark and horrible thing, but then they were also trying to make it seem like he was innocent. I think either way, they're in a way they were kind of screwed here. Because if you go with the way they ended it, it grosses people out. It's like, because I saw people on Twitter getting, mad at people for dressing up as Freddy Krueger, stuff like that. And someone said, "Oh yeah, he's not. He's that a child, not just a murderer, but more." And people were like, "Oh, you gotta blame that. That's just the 2010 movie, though." Again. Realistically, even if he's a child murderer, I don't know if you want to, he's the icon. You like, that's a tough thing, because he is killing children. But I mean, to be fair, I think it was more teenagers he was killing, if you're talking about the original and stuff like that. So it wasn't like it was actual kids, compared to here, it really goes into the backstory of Freddy, or back when he was working at the school as gardener, and so it's more obvious here. But then they want to play on the innocent thing, and I think they wanted to go to the innocent route, where they could say, "Oh, Freddy was actually innocent. The kids lied." Okay, and that's going to get people riled up, because okay, now you're making him into a sympathetic character, and I'm like, well, okay, they could not win here either way, because people just want Freddy Krueger that's Robert Englund ultimately, and that's disappointing, just because it's you can't take you're in a way, people are just not accepting to the fact of, and I'm not saying everyone's accepting to the fact, but a lot of people seem to be, it only could be Robert Englund. It cannot be anyone else. But I think Jackie Earle Haley proved you can play Freddy Krueger. Someone else can play him, and he does it really well. Even if you're not a fan of the film, and I'm not telling you guys you need to like the film or not, because that's absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think the film deserves more credit, deserves more. It deserves more than what I think. At least it deserves less hate. I think you can enjoy this. You can have your issues, and as someone who prefers this over the original, because I think Jackie Earle is scarier than Robert in this, based on the first one anyway. I think he's scarier here, and you get more of him in here than the original. You get 7 minutes. I know that's supposed like 7 minutes. He does a lot with 7 minutes, but I think it's just Jackie Earle Haley just is so effective here, and just really, yeah, you know, he gets some really, yeah. And the other negative I would say is there's too many nods to the original, and even a nod to Freddy vs. Jason. Like, come on, guys, you can do better. Stop trying. Like, you were afraid to go farther. I think this is the one movie they were afraid to challenge themselves to a degree. They went to some places here, but they were taking a couple steps back. It was like they were just didn't know what. And maybe this is the studio getting involved and saying we want, just wanting it to be. We wanted just to be a straight remake, just make it scarier. That's an issue, because you just don't remake it just to remake it. Like, and I feel like there's enough differences here that it's worth giving a shot and worth checking out. But there are definitely too many nods to that original, and it's just really frustrating overall as someone who really likes this version of Nightmare on Elm Street. So in the end, Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, I think is definitely worth checking out. I think it has some really good, there's a lot of good in here. Outside, even though it is flawed, mainly thanks to Jackie Earle Haley's performance, Kyle Gallner's, Katie Cassidy, and along with the visuals and the cinematography and the and some nice brutality here that is not to be messed around with. I think for a Nightmare on Elm Street, compared to this is absolutely not even close to being the worst Nightmare film. And I'm just gonna say that right now. It's definitely not. So in the end, I would recommend this. I would give this a 3.5 out of 5, because there's still some issues that I had, like obviously some issues. I can't give this more than 3.5, but again, I would still have this higher than the original, and that might be, and I get it. I'm not trying to, again, this is just on how I feel and ultimately how I see it. The original is still really good. I'm not denying that, but preference, this one has a much more rewatchability for me. So yeah, this is Brandon at the Movies, signing off. Peace.